What's up, everybody? It's me, Coco Puffsarna, here with Easton for the Titan PDL Gold Week 3 match of the week between the Syracuse Zera Auras, Christopher Yusuf, and the Gardevoir Guardians, Thunder McBusters. Here to look at the match and review it and kind of talk about what we think they might bring. How you doing today, Easton?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. Any insights into the lore between these two PDL characters?
I feel like almost everybody that is a veteran of the PDL dislikes Chris in some way or form, so there's probably some animosity in the back end there. But I don't remember what happened if they've had a previous matchup. Did you by chance do any research to see if they had played in any previous seasons?
I do think last I remember, I could be wrong here, but I think Thunder might have lost to Chris in their last matchup. Um, but yeah, just definitely a classic story to be told here with these two guys. Just a little bit of beef with the content, the old content creation process. So should be a good matchup, at least in terms of a grudge match.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what these guys bring.
Yeah. Just a little backstory here. We got the Syracuse Zero Auras at 1-1 and Gardevoir Guardians at 2-0 coming into this match. But let's hop in and take a look at their teams. I'll send it over to you if you want to give your initial thoughts on these teams.
Certainly. I think in the season, or I guess the preseason rankings, I had the Gardevoir Guardians extremely high, and I had the Chris's team also on the high end. So this is definitely a battle of titans in the league. They both have crazy strong teams with big differences in how they're supposed to play. The Gardevoir Guardians team is more of a, I'd say, balanced offense team, whereas I would consider Chris's team to be more of a hyper offense geared option. I definitely think there's some tools for both sides that can definitely bring them victory here, but the big thing I'm going to note to start here is Chris does not have a resist for Spectrier.
Yeah, definitely the first thing to note is no ghost resist on. I keep on saying the Christopher Yusuf's his old team name, but the Syracuse Zero Auras. I know talking with Chris, he is struggling kind of with his new team identity in some ways, just not having the best bulky switch-in options. He does have Rotom and Arcanine, but he's used to playing that switch-in game where he has a lot of options to switch into that could take hits. But here he's got more of a, as you said, the hyper-offensive team. What do you think his answer to the Spectre is going to be? Is it just going to be a Terra? Is it going to be blowing it up first?
There's ways around it. I think there's really only two options because he doesn't have a fast ghost type or dark type that can necessarily do the job before Spectre gets a hit in, right?
Right.
I would expect it to be an Assault Vest angle for whatever he decides to bring as the quote-unquote resist, but his Assault Vest Pokemon are also not particularly strong in the specially defensive side, so I imagine it has to be a Terra. Interestingly enough, I also think Terra Normal on his team is very bad on anything not named Noivern, so I'm really curious to see what he cooks to try and find a way to resist Spectre's onslaught, because if this thing comes in specs, I don't even know what he can do, honestly.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't come specs and he comes nasty plotted, that might be even worse. So I imagine it's a combination of Assault Vest plus Terra. If it were an Easton team, I would probably Assault Vest the Arcanine,
Ooh.
because at least Crunch Arcanine with Assault Vest can probably live one hit and potentially get it down pretty low just with Crunch and not have to waste a Terra. but I don't know. I'm at a loss at what to do with no ghost resist.
Yeah, I personally think it's almost like a try to blow this thing up before it blows me up angle. Not really any redirection angle from the Gardevoir Guardian side, so the Spectre is a little vulnerable if you are faster and strong enough to kill it. I was kind of thinking like a Terra Dark Sneasler Throat Chop angle, or maybe like you said, the Arcanine. I was thinking like even like some Snarl spam, but that's opening yourself up to just taking Shadow Ball hits because obviously the Arcanine's slower, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and there's risks around thinking about it that way too, because Spectre is also naturally a ghost type, so it can't get fake outed, and it
right.
naturally outspeeds Chris's entire team except for Bundle, which I haven't reviewed the moveset of Bundle, but just off of its stabs, I imagine it doesn't one-shot Spectre from full if Spectre has some bulk, which it most certainly should.
Yeah, I think naturally, yes, they don't outspeed, but I think there are things to consider, like I think I mean, we'll see in the speed tiers later, I think the Coco's a speed tie, which you don't want to leave it up to, and then you have, like, the Sneasler Unburden, or, like, the Electric Surge plus, like, booster speed on, like, the bundle. I don't think Treads becomes fast as Spectre, even with the
It
booster speed,
it
maybe,
can with the booster speed, but it would have to be heavily speed invested.
yeah.
And it might have to be a minus defense nature in order to get it. I can't remember how the calculations work, but he does have tools. I think the majority of the ways he can outspeed it would be Coco plus X,
Mhm.
and making use of the electric terrain boost. But I think Thunder has a pretty strong team into considering those options too,
Right.
right? Like, if we're considering the Coco Sneasler Iron Treads bundle as the core four that he could potentially bring with electric terrain to outspeed the Spectrier, um, Assault Vest Metagross kind of just sits there and wins.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
certainly.
I, I mean, Iron Treads could hit it really hard with a ground move, and I mean, Sneasler could also hit it with the Terra Dark if it goes that option, and it's an additional way to get some damage down. But I don't know. I think it's certainly worth considering. I just think Thunder also has options he can certainly bring to deal with it, and he could look to just counter team Chris expecting that to happen, right?
Right.
I also think Chris should also play this the way he should have played his round 2 match, and whether or not he uses it for the entire game 1 to game 3, he should lead Noivern in game 1 to get information off of Frisk,
Such an
especially in a
underrated
game against
ability.
Thunder. It's that ability is so broken. I really wanted Noivern, I'll be completely honest. uh, if my team wasn't so specific in needing Pangoro as a dark type, I would have probably picked the Noivern because I'm a Frisk enjoyer. And getting the information on what set the Spectrier or Roaring Moon or Metagross is running in this matchup will give him a huge edge in planning for the remainder of the match.
From the opposite side here, what do you think Thunder has to deal with this Rotom wash? Because as we know, the only thing that can super effectively hit the Rotom is a grass type, and no strong grass types over on the Gardevoir Guardian side. Do you think it's just Spectrier Shadow Balls trying to soften it up, or maybe Spectre coming in the back and finishing it off after it's been weakened a little bit?
I imagine it's just going to be a attrition by committee.
Yeah.
He does have Pokemon that can learn grass moves. I'm pretty sure a couple of his Pokemon at least get Grass Knot, which is either a 60 or 80 base power move on Rotom. And I mean, Primarina using a Moonblast on Rotom is still pretty good chip as an example, right? I could potentially see a world in which he runs the counter Rotom set, which is Power Herb Solar Beam Moltres.
Ooh.
That would be an Easton set though, so I'm not sure we would see that. It looks that would be pretty bad against the rest of his team outside of Bundle, but Bundle dies to a paperclip, so that point is a little moot. But certainly I think it's going to be attrition. If Rotom wash Terras away from that type, it will make it even easier for Thunder to get through it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a Mold Breaker Pokemon, I believe, as well, right? So he can't get through that Levitate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it's just by committee. I don't think Terra Grass is a realistic bring against that composition, unless it's a very specific need for like Primarina to resist Superior and Coco at the same time. Yeah, just gotta be by attrition.
And if you had to predict which 6 you think each team is bringing here, as we were talking about the teams, I know you said the core 4 probably, at least in terms of the electric terrain from Chris's side, you have Coco, Bundle, Treads, and Sneasler. Would you say those 4 are coming, or if not, what 6 do you think are coming?
I think for sure you bring Coco in this matchup because he can't remove terrain, or at least he can't remove terrain without potentially the Prankster Meowstick, which
Right.
I believe gets a terrain or multiple terrains maybe that it can get rid of it with. And he could probably tech some other way to get rid of electric terrain, but that would also waste time. So I imagine it's a combination of Coco plus 2 of Sneasler, Iron Bundle, and Iron Treads. I couldn't say which ones for sure, but I imagine Sneasler is higher up on my list than the other 2 to go with Coco in this matchup. I want to see Noivern, but I also don't expect him to bring it.
Yeah.
And I think Arcanine should be a bring here, even if he has a competitive Pokemon in Empoleon and a clear body Pokemon in Metagross that won't take the Intimidate. And I think Sneasel also gets Inner Focus, but I wouldn't even think that Thunder brings that. I still think Arcanine brings things to this team in the matchup, especially with the Assault Vest set, that could prove to be helpful. I really, really don't want to see the Dusclops come.
Really?
Especially after last week.
I was thinking, almost considering the Dusclops, maybe if Chris is worried, hey, I've got this booster speed terrain mode, maybe Thunder thinks about bringing a Trick Room mode with the Metagross. Like, do you bring it just as a Trick Room and Prisoner? But I guess you have other ways around that, maybe like a Coco or Sneasler taunt, so he doesn't need to necessarily index the Dusclops into coming for that.
If you're extremely worried about that as a counter team, I suppose you could bring it as a 6th member, but if he doesn't bring the Trick Room option at all, Dusclops is complete deadweight with 2 moves that do nothing, and that's kind of what you saw in last week's matchup, and I was very hard on Chris for this. He did mention he brought the one wrong move on the Dusclops, which would have changed a lot, but not my entire sentiment on what it was doing on the comp.
Right.
I don't think this is a realistic Trick Room option for either team, really. And I think it has to be more on like Tailwind control or Icy Wind control to give themselves speed advantages in this matchup. The lack of Follow Me Pokemon as well makes me think that like it has to be a speed control game plan on both sides. And honestly, I think the idea here it just came to me for Chris is he could run Icy Wind Iron Bundle in this matchup to enable something else to outspeed the Spectrier.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's where I'm at too. I think the speed control all comes down to the Icy Wind Bundle, and then a Tailwind from Noivern or Moon, I think, is the only... Moltres might get it too.
Moltres does get Tailwind. It's slower though, and I imagine there are some sets that Bundle or Coco could just one-shot the Moltres.
Yeah.
I don't... As much as I'm a Moltres enjoyer, I don't think it's extremely good in this matchup.
Yeah.
There are Pokemon that it probably does well against. For example, Sneasler doesn't want to attack Moltres because it probably has Flame Body, and it resists the fighting move, right?
Right.
Moltres can burn a lot of his Pokemon for free if they don't attack it or don't just kill it in one move, if it runs Will-O-Wisp. So it could be a cool Pokemon in the matchup, but it would have to be a very specific set. We talked a little bit about what I expect the Syracuse Zero Auras to bring. What do you think Thunder would bring on his side in this matchup, outside of the Spectrier, which we're almost guaranteed to see?
Yeah, I mean, we'll hop over to the type chart here real quick, to just as we're talking about it. But I think, as we talked about, no ghost resists on the Zero Auras, so that Spectre is definitely coming. Two ghost weaknesses too in the Espeon and Dusclops, although those bit of a moot point. Those Pokemon probably aren't coming, as we talked about. Um, I'd have to say the Moon also has to come, just because, as we talked about, it's a speed control matchup, and if that Moltres isn't coming with Tailwind just because it doesn't have the best matchup, I think the Moon needs to come with Tailwind to give Thunder a way to fight for the speed control. Um, if not, you're playing like a Trick Room game with, I'd have to guess Meowstic is the only setter, so maybe Meowstic comes with Trick Room, maybe Fake Out, to try to help alleviate some pressure from whatever Chris is leading. Maybe give the Spectre some time to get some hits off. So I'd have to say those three. AV Metagross, like you mentioned, could be a really good bring here. Not a lot of ground resists. I mean, a ton of ground weaknesses on Chris's side too. So I'm thinking probably Great Tusk, and then the 6-1 I think is really a toss-up. We mentioned Primarina could just be there as like a someone who sits there with like a bulky, like maybe even the Assault Vest on Primarina just sitting there, but the Tapu Koko threatens it, so I'm not sure about that.
I think it might just be an Empoleon angle to go there as well. I don't want to bring that many slow Pokemon in this matchup with how fast Chris's team is if I was Thunder.
Right.
But he does have to make a pick between the bottom four in this chart, which is Great Tusk, Metagross, Empoleon, and Primarina. I imagine you bring two of the four, and probably not both Empoleon and Primarina in the same game. But I think I really like Empoleon here. If he doesn't bring Iron Treads, there's no super effective ground moves to be aware of, so you just have to be careful with Rotom Wash and Tapu Koko. You can run the Electric Resist Berry as an example, or an Assault Vest on the Empoleon, which it actually doesn't mind because it gets Icy Wind, Knockoff. It does have a little bit of a 4-move syndrome for support in VGC. So I think it could be a really big bring, especially since it takes neutral damage from Iron Bundle's Freeze Dry, right?
Right. Now, that's a very important thing to mention. I was going to ask because I wasn't entirely sure. That Icy Wind on the Empoleon might just push it over the edge too, just maybe combat the Icy Wind you might see from the bundle, or give Thunder like another speed control option, which is so important in this matchup.
Yeah, a couple of points to worry about with Empoleon coming, though, despite me thinking it's still a good bring, is Icy Wind makes Superior a lot stronger because of the contrary boost. So you have to be careful around how you use it. On top of that, if we're expecting the Empoleon to be good in the matchup, that there's two electric types, you want to, for example, spec it towards that end, then Sneasler just one-shots it. Right. So you have to be very careful and have to have a very specific set. Like, just as an example, you could bring like Terra Ghost Assault Vest Empoleon to combat that. That would take away all of Sneasler's capabilities to kill it and leave it on the field to do its job. It's also no longer weak to electric. But I imagine in this matchup, Thunder will be more offensive with his Terra usage rather than defensive, so that's why I'm kind of favoring the Metagross as the Assault Vest user if he brings one, and that would be my like Pokemon in the back of choice for him.
Yeah, agreed. I think we keep mentioning this, like that because of the lack of Ghost Resist on Chris's team, a Terra might be in need of you might need a Terra to help with that. I really do think, if I had to choose any Terra type for this Sneasler this week, I think it's got to be Terra Dark Throat Chop to deal with a lot of the offensive pressure coming from Thunderside, and to just offensively threaten that Spectre and any Terra Ghost options Thunder might bring, just because of the lack of Ghost Resists and obviously the Metagross too, right?
It would be very funny to me if Thunder brought the Sneasel this week as a response to the Sneasler and found some set to cook off of it.
Try to battle the Sneasel, see who's better.
Pretty much what I'm thinking, because I used to do this in old singles seasons where if we had the same a Pokemon of the same line, we would always bring them to see which one's better, right?
A little
If
bit
I
of a
play
gentleman's
Thunder-
agreement.
Yeah, kind of like that, right? I wouldn't expect it here, but I'm sure Thunder could cook something up with the Sneasel that could push him over the edge here. I don't know enough about Sneasel's capabilities to say. Right now, I just think it's a fake out bot.
Yeah. Hopping into just the stat spreadsheet here, as we wrap things up. Any glaring stat weaknesses from either side that you might want to take advantage of?
Well, based on the stats sheet, we can tell that Chris's team is a lot less bulky than Thunder's, which is why I inched towards Chris being a hyper offense variant and Thunder being a bulky offense variant that can go hyper offense. I think in this matchup, Thunder definitely has the advantage stat wise. Vulnerabilities, I mean, the stat spreads are relatively equal outside of the HP stat on Chris being a lot lower.
Yeah.
Each one of them has very capable physical and special attackers, and physical and special defenders. I will point out though that Chris's best specially defensive Pokemon is Dusclops, which has a putrid 40 base HP and cannot tank Spectrier. So, like I said, he has to be a little bit creative in this matchup to get something that can live a hit from what we expect to be Thunder's game plan.
Yeah. I think it has to be either the Assault Vest on the Arcanine, the Treads, or even the Wash. I wouldn't hate. Obviously, Wash doesn't have the best 4 damaging moves. Like, you really want to run some supportive moves on it, but
It can be done if you find the right set for it. Like, I'm pretty sure Rotom Wash gets Dark Pulse, and lesser known fact, I'm pretty sure Rotom Wash also gets Sucker Punch. I'm gonna go double check that before I've considered an idiot, but if it does get that, it would be some cook to see that come for speed, just to chip out the Spectre.
yeah. If not, it does get the Foul Play for sure. Which, obviously Spectre not the biggest attack stat, but not the biggest defense stat either.
It does get Sucker Punch.
It does get Sucker Punch. Yeah, I think that might be some cook for Chris to bring here. Give him an option in the Spectre. Don't have to worry about speed. You're going to tank a hit back anyway, and you're going to make that Spectre think twice about clicking a Shadow Ball once the Sucker Punch is revealed.
Yeah. Interesting that once the Sucker Punch is revealed, all he has to do is Terra the Spectre. The problem of it getting too chipped goes away. But as a surprise in one game, sometimes that's all you need, right?
Right. Obviously, the defense and special defense stats here on Thunder side pretty equal. We always wonder going into a match, is Tapu Koko going to go physical? Is it going to go special? Do you think this is a week where it brings out its physical stat? Obviously, a higher attack stat, but not the best coverage. Or do you think it's going to stick to either a special set or maybe even a supportive set with, like, screens?
I mean, if I were in Chris's position, this is a week I would run Light Clay Tapu Koko, max speed, max HP, and just run, like, Nature's Madness and other stuff as support, because despite Koko having good matchups into Moltres, Empoleon, Sneasel technically, and Primarina, I just don't see Koko itself doing enough damage, and the purpose for you bringing Koko is to enable one of your like your Iron Treads, your Sneasler, or your bundle. It's not there to do damage in this game. So I think you just set up screens with it. He did bring a half support set in the last week's match. I'm not a fan of that. Don't bring that again, please. I would much prefer to see a full support set or a full damage set, not a half.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, that's my favorite Coco set. Personally, back when I used to play a lot of singles, I would always lead Coco with screens and Volt Switch and just maybe a Thunderbolt or even a U-turn instead of the Volt Switch. So, big fan of that set, but I could see that being really good to allow Chris to eat maybe some hits from that Spectre or eat some hits from the more offensive Pokemon on Thunder's team. Could be a good look.
For sure. I have to expect that Thunder will have a Pokemon that can remove screens. Otherwise, this matchup is tilted because Spectre can't one-shot things, and it's not going to take hits from these things either. In my opinion, if Metagross gets a way to remove screens, which I imagine it has on the Assault Vest set, that is the cook.
Yeah, I could say for sure that thing gets Psychic Fangs, which is probably its best psychic attacking move aside from Zen Headbutt anyway, so...
Which misses, so you don't want to run that.
Yeah. we both know about missing moves. I like the 100% accurate moves in draft.
I don't want to talk about missing moves. I had one season of 4 and 18 hitting dark voids, and I've missed 2 sheer colds this season without getting lucky. So that's how it be.
That is how it be. And any closing thoughts on these guys before we head into the match review?
Only thing I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna reiterate this, Chris, please, please, please do not bring this Dusclops.
I hope this hard cuts to just a Dusclops lead in game 1, but much love to these competitors, and we will see you guys soon. What's up, guys? It's me and Easton here in match 1, ready to get into the battle. Easton, now we see the 6, and we literally just opened it, so if you need to take a second, but what do you think about the 6 these guys brought and their Terra types?
Honestly, I'm thrilled with what I see from Chris, because he actually brought the Noivern. I hope he uses the Frisk ability on it. I'm pleased to see the Arcanine despite the problems we saw with it in the matchup. And he's lucky that Thunder didn't bring the Empoleon, but I think we've pretty much predicted close to what Chris was going to attempt to bring here. And we did kind of predict that it would be a mix of Coco plus Sneasler and one of Iron Bundle or Iron Treads, so that's good. On Thunder's side, I think we did pretty good with the predictions. I'm not sure how high I was on Meowstic coming, but we pretty much said for sure we would see Spectrier and a combination of Metagross, Iron Treads, and Thundurus. So everything looks good. The Terras are very interesting. Chris has 3 Terra fightings. I hope he doesn't think that resists
I
Ghost.
think that's Thunder.
Because
Thunder's got the 3 Terra fightings. Yeah.
Thanks for correcting me. That's an interesting choice against a Coco team.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he has reasons for that. And Chris has a very interesting Terra on Rotom Wash. What is this Terra bug? Is it just to resist grass? Because that's got to be Cook.
Yeah, I don't know if he was expecting a Terra Grass Pokemon, or maybe he's expecting the Grass Knots from Thunder's side. Obviously it resists the one type that Rotom's weak to. I think we see the same thing with Spectre. You know, fighting's very common on Spectre just because it resists the dark types. It's normally weak to, and you could then hit the dark types that normally resist the Shadow Ball. But the 2 other Terra fightings are kind of interesting. Obviously on Great Tusk it's more of an offensive choice, maybe to get some extra damage out of a close combat or some fighting move. Metagross though, Terra fighting, very interesting. And then from Chris's side, we don't see the Terra Dark Sneasler that I really thought would be strong on his team. We can see Terra flying, so I'm almost wondering if it's some sort of acrobatics shenanigans. I don't know if Sneasler gets that, or what it's necessarily for. Any insight there?
It's kind of funny that the Terra Flying Sneasler beats the Terra Fighting Spectrier if that happens.
Yeah.
But I have no clue. And interestingly, also, it looks like Chris is going for the more offensive route with no resisted Terra to Ghost.
Yeah, very true.
Terra Water Arcanine also really cool. In what Thunder has brought, it doesn't seem like it's necessarily going to be a useful Terra, but that kind of frees up the Terra slot for something else, so that's kind of good.
What do you think's coming out for the lead from these two? Do you think we're going to see Noivern on Chris's side, maybe with a bundle, or do you think we're going to see the Tapu Koko to set up for the Unburdened shenanigans, maybe, or the Quark Drive shenanigans? Obviously, the only Quark Drive Pokemon we see that Chris brought was the bundle, but
I sincerely hope it's the Noivern for information purposes. I'm not sure what you would want to pair with the Noivern here. Maybe the Sneasler if it has Fake Out. Or you could even put the Noivern next to Arcanine or Rotom and just let them sit on the field with the Noivern. On Thunder's side, I assume what we're gonna see is a Spectrier Roaring Moon lead, or a combination of the two with Meowstic support. I imagine Meowstic gets screens, so it could just be them with screen support, I suppose. And I almost guarantee the Metagross is in the back here. It has such a good matchup against a lot of the Pokemon Chris brought, outside of the Arcanine, which I'm not even sure it's going to get brought. We'll have to see.
Yeah, let's hop in here and see what how the leads start off. Okay.
Alright, so he is going the hyper-offensive route instead of the Noivern route, which I don't appreciate. But I still think it can be a good lead here. It just depends on what the sets are. Roaring Moon Thunderous is very scary, though. Especially if it's Roaring Moon with the speed boost, which I suppose we'll see in a moment here.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think I paused a little early there. I wanted to see, I was like, is it Telepathy Tapu Koko, or do we just not see the Electric Surge go off? So we do see the Electric Surge with the Electric Seed Sneasler proccing the Unburden. So I'd have to imagine, I don't know if the Sneasler gets Acrobatics. If he does, I'd have to imagine he's going for some sort of Terraflying Acrobatics shenanigans to do damage. Obviously not the best matchup into the Thunderous, though, right?
No, and Thunderous gets the electric terrain. Well, actually, it doesn't get the electric terrain boost unless it Terras, so we'll have to see what it does.
Yeah, see how this turns out. Turn 1, boost on the moon, booster energy.
Terra Ghost, Protect Sneasler. Okay.
Okay.
So Thunder gets the Tailwind, so he now has the speed control, and Sneasler can't protect now, so if he switches out the Sneasler, it loses the Unburden boost and defense boost. And he's in the driver's seat despite having taken that damage from Koko. Was Koko Life Orb? Could you scroll down on the sidebar there so we can see what the information we got here?
Might not have seen a proc if it is. It is the Life Orb.
Okay, I did think that did quite a bit of damage for something that doesn't have that much special attack and isn't hitting something super effectively. So he also Terra'd the Koko here, right? So both of them have already used their Terras.
Yeah, so we're not seeing the supportive Koko set that we thought we might see, but the Dazzling Gleam Life Orb does do a good chunk of damage here while protecting the Sneasler. I think it's good chip for Chris, but as you said, Thunder's kind of in the driver's seat now with the speed control. Thunderous is going to click Rising Voltage, and if he does, since he does not have that Iron Treads, he's got nothing in the back that really wants to eat that voltage. Maybe Rotom, it is neutral, and it doesn't, it is Levitate, so it doesn't get affected by the terrain boost from Rising Voltage. So, because it isn't grounded. And obviously Moon using its Terra here now too.
This lead makes me think that Spectrier is almost certainly in the back to clean up, though. So if he takes down the Thunderous, out comes Spectrier in Tailwind, and if there's Chip on the field for it, it's going to have a field day.
Yeah, Let's see how this next turn unfolds. Like you said, I don't think the Sneasler can really afford to switch out unless it's into that Rotom. Ooh.
That's a rough turn. So Thunder has now shown that this is probably a purely support Roaring Boon, which means it's not probably threatening either Coco or Sneasler on the field here. So Chris doesn't even need to worry about it. He did knock out the Thunderous, like I said, though, and Spectrier does get to come out and potentially have a field day. And Coco cannot protect on the next turn or risk the double protect. So I wonder what the Spectrier set is, and if it has a range to kill Coco from here.
Yeah, some interesting things too. The Sneasler did get that attack off and didn't die. It is still faster with the Unburn boost, even though the Thunderous is in Tailwind. Now it can't protect again, so it's a bit of a mind game here, right? Obviously, Thunder can go after this Tapu Koko, but Sneasler could do a big chunk of damage back into the Spectrier. Snarl not making much of a difference on the Sneasler, unfortunately.
No, it would make a difference on the Coco if it hadn't protected, but it certainly doesn't help with the Sneasler at all here. So let's play the next turn here and see what happens.
Snarl again. No protect from either of Chris's Pokemon. Shadow Ball
down for free.
And Thunderbolt.
So even at -1, the Coco still half hits the Spectrier because of Electric Terrain. Chris does now have the option, because he opted to not protect at all on that last turn, to double protect and get rid of Tailwind.
Yeah.
But the problem with him doing this is if he leaves the Roaring Moon on the field, it still can set up Tailwind on the next turn if Iron Bundle doesn't one-shot it.
Yeah.
Because it's the second fastest thing on the field, right?
Yeah, I believe it's actually faster than the Moon. When Tailwind's going to be down, so it's going to be difficult for Thunder to get this Tailwind back up. I don't know if Freeze Dry KOs from this range, but it might come down to a Hydro Pump miss, whether or not Thunder is able to get that Tailwind back up and have control over the game. What do you think the item is on the Spectre here? Do you think it's Specs, or do you think maybe it's got Protect of its own to try to live out the Tailwind stall?
I imagine this is not a Spectrier. I really actually hope that it's a substitute Spectrier, because that would be the move that gets him out of the situation.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's not. I'm assuming it's either 3 attack protect, or it's 2 attack with some odd support move and then protect.
Yep. Let's see how this next turn plays out. Chris does a pretty good job of stalling out the Tailwind. We'll see here if the bundle has Protect to follow. It might even be Sash too, so it might not even need to Protect. It does get the Quark Drive boost from the terrain, so we're not sure if it's Booster Energy itself. It does have Protect. Oh, interesting though. It doesn't Protect with the Coco. Ooh.
Okay, so that actually shows an interesting dynamic here. This is another potentially half support Coco, which I critiqued earlier. The taunt could be big to not let him set up another Tailwind, but I expected when I saw that he didn't protect with Coco that he would just be going for the kill on Spectrier. I guess the Snarl would still prevent it once he goes to -2, but Spectrier would be on its last legs if he had done it that way.
Yeah, it's a very interesting move here. It makes me wonder. I almost would have loved to see just the double protect there, stall at the Tailwind, and just work from there, or commit to getting that chip on the Spectrier so Bundle could just finish off Spectrier and Moon with even just an Icy Wind probably at that point before this Tailwind goes back up. Not sure if I'm the biggest fan of the taunt, but it does put Thunder in a weird position here, especially with this Rotom coming out. Like we said earlier, not much to hit this Rotom. It's got to be a bit of an attrition battle, and Thunder's kind of already poked out. Do you think we see a
Absolutely.
Snarl come out here from the moon? Maybe, obviously we saw the Shadow Ball again. That to me is signifying it could be Specs, or at least, the very least not Substitute, because I think Substitute would have been the good move there from Thunder if he had it.
I think you snarl 100% of the time here with Roaring Moon now that it's taunted. I'm unsure what I would want to do with Spectrier, but it depends on what Thunder still has in the back, because we are still missing information on one Pokemon that he hasn't brought out yet. I assume it's the Metagross. If it is, Metagross could potentially switch in on the Spectrier here, but then you lose the boost. So it depends on what his choice is with what he's got left. He could calc to see if Spectrier lives a hit from Iron Bundle at -1 from where his HP is at, but I imagine it's just a Metagross switch or a Protect.
Yeah. Let's see how it turns out here. Obviously, I think Freeze Dry kills from this percentage, so it doesn't even have to risk the Hydro Pump miss. Ooh, goes for it anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
Snarl does go off. Breaks a potential sash on the bundle, and we do see the Quark Drive booster energy proc, so it is not the sash.
Interesting. And it was actually Tusk in the back, which is not ideal with 2 water types on the field.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Thunder's gonna be able to do here to clean up this game. Obviously the Coco is still back in the back for Chris, and this Moon's kind of neutered. I'm not sure, even if he gets a kill with this Great Tusk on one of the Pokemon, I'm not sure it's living a hit from the other one.
It's interesting that if this is Protect Tusk, he could still protect and get another drop of special attack, and that could give him a chance to get some more kills, but I don't see the winning condition for him here. Maybe he has something funky on the Tusk.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. This Moon's unfortunately not doing much at this point besides clicking Snarl. Interesting to see the Hydro Pump come out from Chris. To me, that signifies no Freeze Dry, unless the Freeze Dry wasn't picking up the KO guaranteed at that level of HP. But Spectre, not a notoriously bulky Pokemon, I'd have to imagine that Freeze Dry would have picked it up from there. Maybe he just doesn't want to reveal the tech, too.
Maybe he doesn't, yeah. Let's see.
Helping Hand from the Rotom, interesting here. And the Pump again. Yeah, that's showing me no Freeze Dry. Snarl goes off, but obviously Roaring Moon the last thing on the field at this point. Not going to be able to do much. A Flip Turn.
That is giving away information that he really shouldn't be at this point.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I guess he was worried about the Snarl debuff, but I don't think he needed to switch out there. But obviously Thunder helpless at this point. It's going to be a 3-0 from Chris in Game 1.
Alright, on to Game 2.
How do you think those guys played that match? You think you want to see anything different?
I want Thunder to bring Metagross, now that we've seen how Chris wants to play.
Agreed.
I still want to see Noivern.
Yeah.
Because odds are Thunder's going to switch up his leads, and he doesn't have all the information he might want, such as he doesn't know what Tusk's item is. He hasn't seen 2 Pokemon other than that still. But I think what the Pokemon that Chris brought, I think the pair of 4 is probably fine. I'm not a huge fan of the Rotom over the Arcanine, but I guess I'd like to see both of them in the back, honestly.
Yeah, those bulky Pokemon gonna prove a bit of a problem for Thunder if he brings that support Roaring Moon again. They don't necessarily care about the debuffs as much.
Yeah, I think Chris played it very smartly, just leaving the Moon on the field and letting it do whatever the heck it wants. That's the wrong game.
Wrong match.
Can you not click? Okay, yeah, there we go.
I don't think that one works on the in-game client, but yeah.
Alright.
I'd be interested to see the Noivern come out Game 2 here. I do think it's still a valuable bring, but I would have really liked to see it Game 1 if he was going to bring it for that Frisk.
Yeah, I think now it's got less of a role, but it could still have play. It still does really big chip damage to Spectre. If it's sashed, it doesn't mind getting hit. It has other things it could potentially do as well, so I don't know. Let's see what they bring.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine it's Sash if there's no Sash on the bundle. Could be the Cobra Cloak too if he's worried about Meowstic fake out though.
Alright, so as I predicted, this is the Game 2 lead that Thunder went with. He switched his leads up entirely for the 2 Pokemon that haven't been seen, which is why the Noivern would have been so important to lead here. But, knowing this, I imagine Chris has an idea on how to manage this. The question is, since we've seen either 3 or all 4 of Coco's moves, it cannot do anything to Metagross. It could, I guess it could Thunderbolt, but how much damage will that do? Will it even half hit it? And then Sneasler, I imagine, does nothing because it is Terra Flying. I'm not sure what Chris's winning move here is, but Thunder has a lot of weird tech that he could do here, depending on what sets he brought.
Yeah, the fake out from Sneasler could be interesting here. Obviously faster than a Meowstic fake out if Meowstic is running fake out. Meowstic obviously a good Cobra Cloak user too. A lot of different options from Thunder with this lead, and I'm interested to see how Chris deals with it. Close combat from the Sneasler, probably still doing a decent amount of damage to the Metagross, but certainly not killing.
I think interestingly from Chris, he could choose to just double target the Metagross and see what happens. But
yeah.
that would also allow the Meowstic to set up screens, which I don't know if he'll have a way to deal with. So let's see. What has the Meowstic got for us? It is the Terra Flying Sneasler. Okay. Interesting turn. So it was, as you called out, the Terra Flying Acrobatics variant of Sneasler. The Reflect means that Meowstic actually lives 3 hits from the Sneasler alone with that set, which is hilarious to me because Meowstic is weak as heck. And Metagross revealing Heavy Slam, which is not a bad choice, but not what I was expecting to see.
Yeah, I really love the Terra Flying set from Chris just because I think it's really cool. I didn't even know this thing got acrobatics, obviously synergizing well with its Unburden and the Electric Seed. But surprisingly not doing a lot of damage to that Meowstic. Like you said, 3 hits after the Reflect. It could have been a low roll too, potentially. If they get the high roll here, it could be a 2-hit KO. But the Metagross is just exerting a lot of pressure now with that Reflect up, and with the Heavy Slam, I'm certain it's doing a ton to Coco. Do you think we see another screen for Meowstic here, go Light Screen just to prevent the damage from the Coco as well, or do you think we see some other supportive move from it?
I think you see Light Screen every day. If this is Light Clay Meowstic especially, because in this game Thunder's just looking to survive hits and dish out damage, especially with the bulky Metagross, right? That means Coco will be absolute dead weight as soon as that move is used.
Yeah, I think Chris here really happy with himself that he brought a Brick Break on Sneasler if he has it. If not, maybe kicking himself a little bit, as these screens could prove really hard to punch through Thunder's team. Wash Switch in. Helping Hand. Psychic Fangs.
Interesting. So we've learned a few things here. Meowstic may not have Light Screen if it didn't use it there. That's interesting to me because usually when you run screens, you have both. If you're running Light Clay anyway. Helping Hand into Metagross under screens is really good because Metagross is probably just barely missing out on some KOs. And Psychic Fangs into the Coco slot is not what I was expecting, but turns out to be a very good read on a switch-in, because now Rotom is within kill range of another hit.
Yeah, I don't know if
and
that
it has
Helping
used
Hand...
the berry.
I don't know if that Helping Hand Psychic Fangs is killing the Coco there. It might, it very well might. Interesting he doesn't go for the Heavy Slam. I almost wonder if he was expecting this Rotom switch in, just trying to play a mid-ground play, thinking if this Helping Hand Heavy Slam goes into Rotom, I probably lose the game, right? Sneasler, interesting Protect there. I don't hate it because obviously you're trying to get the switch in here with your Coco after you see that Heavy Slam, and you don't want to risk the Metagross just getting a free hit into the Sneasler on the switch in.
But the question for me then is like, what's the point of Sneasler on the field right now if it's not using an attacking move and you're it's hard to explain my thought process on this, but like that was an extremely passive turn from Chris where he didn't gain anything. Sneasler is still on the field, not able to hit Metagross, and not able to take out the Meowstic with its best move in this scenario, which is Acrobatics. And he lost the item and most of Rotom's HP, and it's in danger of dying next turn. Like, what's the winning move here for him?
Yeah, it's a bit of a, I guess, a read with that Protect too, just thinking, I want to protect the Sneasler. I think the attack's going to the Sneasler. I think if Psychic Fangs goes into Sneasler, you're really happy here, but now that Thunder has that, like you said, the damage and the berry gone on the Rotom, he's just well within the driver's seat, and Sneasler can go for the double Protect, but very risky play, not much upside to it either, even if he gets it off.
Too passive. I need to see what other moves Sneasler has to know for sure, but seeing it not hit the Metagross leads me to think it's completely walled by it, and I'm not sure if Rotom being on the field helps here either. The only thing I can think of that would help Chris right now is Will-O-Wisp. That would at least take some pressure off the field if it lands.
Yeah,
But
and obviously going to the next turn here, we see the Meowstic clicking Safeguard, almost predicting this Will-O-Wisp. Let's see if it catches Chris off guard. Wow.
and bingo, right? Thunder gets the exact read on the turn with a crazy tech in Safeguard that I haven't seen in ages used, but is exactly what he needs to keep this Metagross healthy.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine he ran into some problems with Will-O-Wisp, Arcanine, or Rotom in testing with his team to have to run Safeguard. That tells me this Metagross is obviously not Lumberry either, which is an item it likes to commonly run.
I do think it's most likely Assault Vest still, but we haven't seen any confirmation yet. But now Chris is in a very difficult position because now he can't burn the Metagross. He appears to have not brought the Arcanine because he hasn't brought it in yet. And he's trying to keep the Sneasler on the field against the Metagross when it can't do anything. I suppose it's just trying to knock out the Meowstic, but whatever comes in after the Meowstic is going to be even scarier than the Meowstic. I think you just leave the Meowstic on the field, honestly.
Yeah, no acrobatics again at this point tells me no Brick Break, no Throat Chop. Probably its best attacking move besides the Dire Claw. This one's still looking really good from Thunder's perspective. I imagine if he has a light screen, now he clicks it on his Meowstic's presumably last turn of living, and he's fine with the Meowstic going down. It's gotten all of its work at this point.
Let's find out.
Bullet Punch too. Wow, Meowstic doesn't even go down.
Perfect turn.
Yeah, not much to say there. Just Chris forced in a bad situation, has to protect. Meowstic gets its light screen up, and the Bullet Punch makes it so Meowstic doesn't even lose its life. Although
Do we know all of Meowstic's moves? That was oh yeah, it's four. Okay, so it's taunt bait basically.
yeah, Taunt Bait. This also makes me think it's probably not Cobra Cloak. I'd imagine with a set like this, you'd have to run Mental Herb. If not, obviously this Coco is gonna taunt the Meowstic, and actually it could be a problem here. I'd like to see Thunder switch out this Meowstic, because if it gets taunted here and it's stuck on the field, it could be Chris's way back into this game.
If it gets taunted, it can just get swapped out the following turn.
True.
So
And with screens up, I guess there's not much to risk.
yeah, and you can still Helping Hand with the Meowstic, so it's not complete dead weight while on the field as long as the Pokemon next to it is hitting the opponent. I think it would be very interesting tech here if Thunder had Stomping Tantrum on the Metagross to be able to hit Coco super effectively here. But we've already seen him Heavy Slam the Coco and Psychic Fangs it, so he only has one move left. I have no clue what it is.
Yeah, same. See what he clicks here. Helping Hand from the Meowstic, obviously. Thunderbolt's still doing a good chunk with the light screen up.
Battle Ball Rotom?
Shadow Ball is an interesting choice. Psychic Fangs into the Rotom, just trading the Meowstic for Rotom. I think Thunder takes it all day with his Pokemon lead, and now he brings out the Great Tusk.
Absolutely.
Chris reveals Bundle in the back as his last Pokemon. The pump, one-shotting the Great Tusk through screens here. Very big hit from Chris. Now it's a very interesting situation. I'm interested to see what Metagross clicks here. Gleam critting too into the resist, still doing a lot of damage.
And there's the Spectre that we were all waiting for.
Yeah, Spectre is kind of a good last Pokemon here to clean up very fast. Obviously, these two things in the field could be faster than the Spectre, or even Speed-Tied, depending on their EVs with the Koko. But Light Screen's still up with two special attackers on the field, and Bullet Punch calling for this Bundle's name. Looks like Thunder should be able to finish this out here. Bundle's forced to protect, basically.
Coco's forced to hit Metagross, probably. If it even gets a turn, and it doesn't. So that could either be a speed tie or just undersped.
Yeah.
We don't really know for sure, but very well played from Thunder in that. The screens, Metagross is crazy, and let's see what kind of adaptations they can make here.
Yeah.
Because now they've seen both of Thunder's modes, and we've only seen one lead from Chris. I wonder if he has something planned for Game 3.
Yeah, good Game 1 from Chris. Good adaptation here from Thunder in Game 3. Let's see how it unfolds in Game 3. Oop. Music. Apologies for your ears at home.
I wouldn't have minded the music, but I understand. There's the adaptation. So he retains the Game 2 lead, but Chris brings the Arcanine. Arcanine does threaten the Metagross as long as it's the physical variant, I'm pretty sure, since I'm almost 100% sure this is Assault Vest. But he can't get burned if this is Will-O-Wisp, if Thunder reads it with the Safeguard, and I imagine he has a plan to switch out the Metagross if need be.
Yeah.
So let's see what we've got here.
Yeah, interesting turn, like you said, Will-O-Wisp or Flare Blitz threats from the Arcanine, so the Meowstic's kind of in choice, indecision mode. Do I want to click Reflect? Do I want to click Safeguard? Now that we know he has both those moves. I almost wonder if we see I think the best mid-ground play for Thunder is a Terra. Terra fighting, obviously just neutral on the Flare Blitz, but I think it gives them a good way to hit back while also clicking Safeguard, although the Dazzling Gleam coming out from the Koko could cover that option. Ooh. Bulldoze.
I have problems.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. I don't know if I liked that sequence of turns there. You go ahead.
I don't hate Thunder's mid-ground play that you pretty much said before the turn happened, which was Meowstic doesn't know what it wants to do, but it either wants to Reflect or Safeguard, so it's Safeguarded to protect against the Will-O-Wisp. But what is Bulldoze Arcanine doing here? I have two separate problems with this. Number one is technically the item on Metagross hasn't been revealed yet. So you're bulldozing a Pokemon that commonly runs weakness policy. That is a problem. And it doesn't get the speed drop either because of Clear Body. So you're giving it a combination it normally wants to get. And two, you already outspeed.
Yeah, you're already faster here, probably with both the Arcanine and the Tapu Koko. This Metagross is most likely full bulk, and you saw that it outsped almost everything last turn, and it even has Bullet Punch for priority. You force your own Koko to protect there. I really would have loved to see a Flare Blitz plus Dazzling Gleam from Chris there. I think it covers Thunder's Terra. You know Metagross is the threat. Obviously, I'm not sure if he did the calcs last game, but likely Assault Vest and not able to protect, so it's either got to switch or take a combination of hits where at least one's going to be super effective, and Meowstic can't screen for both.
Right, and now Thunder's in a little bit more of a precarious situation with having used the Terra because he needs to light screen to save the Metagross from Dazzling Gleam from a upcoming Terra Fairy Koko, but Arcanine still threatens the Metagross here. Maybe not as much as with super effective Flare Blitz, but if it is Assault Vested, it is probably weaker on the physical side here.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine here from Thunder we have to see Light Screen plus Heavy Slam, Light Screen plus Bullet Punch into the Coco that we just saw Protect. Obviously that's the threat to Metagross at this point. Chris, I'd like to see a Flare Blitz or something, get some damage on this Metagross, that's the threat. I don't think going for the Meowstic like he did last game is the best option. I'm also even surprised we didn't see just a taunt from Chris on the Meowstic last turn. That also wouldn't have been a terrible option. Maybe he's assuming it's the Mental Herb.
No, and it could still be an option here, but he could also take the route that I normally take when I see a Pokemon with 4 support moves, is I just ignore it and leave it on the field unless it's causing me... Unless it has a very specific moveset that is causing me to not target it. And
Yeah.
in this case, to me, I think you ignore it, or you taunt it on the first turn.
And Arcanine, I'm not sure if it gets it Psychic Fangs. I think it might get Psychic Fangs.
It does.
Yeah, so very interesting here. I wonder if we'll see it come out for Chris as a deterrent to those screens.
That would be crazy tech if he has it, though.
Dazzling doing a good chunk of damage here from the Coco. There we go. I like that sequence of moves from Chris here, getting himself back in the game. Hammer Arm.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Rocky Helmet.
Wow.
Okay, so Chris picks up a... I wouldn't say lucky, but that's a crazy sequence to get a kill. Technically, he double targeted the Metagross, which we suspected he should do to leave the Meowstic on the field. But it actually falls to the Rocky Helmet proc, because it targeted the Arcanine instead of the Coco.
Yeah, I have to say, I love the sequence of moves there from Chris. I think that's a turn that gets him back into this game. From Thunder, I'm surprised I don't see the Bullet Punch or Heavy Slam into the Coco. Maybe he's worried that Rotom's still in the back. It's kind of lingering in his mind and thinking, if I Heavy Slam into this Coco when Rotom comes in, obviously we just saw it Protect, I could just lose the game on the spot, so opting for some more quote-unquote guaranteed damage on the Arcanine.
But interestingly, despite this thing having been one-shot in 2 straight games, he still brings the Tusk. What set does this thing have that Thunder really wants it on the field?
Yeah, very interesting bring here, and an interesting switch into the Fairy Coco. Not sure what it's gonna do besides maybe just headlong rush one of these Pokemon.
What was the Terra type on this? Do you know?
Terra type on, I think it was fighting. Yeah, just fighting. Looking for
So
pure
can't
damage.
can't even get rid of the Fairy weakness. Okay,
Already
let's see.
Terra fighting down the Metagross too. No Terra left for Thunder in this match. And now the Meowstic, it's kind of just sitting on the field. I assume it's going to reflect here to maybe give some more sustainability to this Great Tusk, but we'll see. And Protect on the Coco. Reflect going up. Ooh, good read from Thunder on the Protect.
Do you know why Coco protected? The only thing I can think of is if this thing is scarfed.
Yeah, maybe he suspects this Tusk is scarfed. It did go before the Arcanine there, but Arcanine obviously naturally a little faster than the Great Tusk, but typically runs a more defensive EV spread, whereas the Great Tusk typically runs a more offensive EV spread, so could just be the Tusk being faster there. Maybe he's okay with the Arcanine going down. It served its purpose, and he wanted to get this Sneasler in. I'm not sure who is in the lead in this game, to be honest. I still have to favor Chris's position here.
I do have to agree. Even with the screens up, I think Chris is in a better place to take this game.
This Meowstic, now it's gone through all its moods. Safeguard, Light Screen, Reflect. Only thing it has left to do is really click Helping Hand with this Tusk. I'm assuming we're going to see Helping Hand plus some sort of damaging move into this Coco slot. If Rotom's in the back and he goes for a headlong rush into this Coco, because it can't click Close Combat, this game is just over for Thunder.
I wonder if Great Tusk has Heavy Slam, because we saw it on Metagross, and I imagine it gets it.
Yeah, it very well could be, and naturally heavy Pokemon should be pretty high base power here on the Coco. See what he goes for. Ooh, living the Terra... Oh, no Terra flying.
Interesting. I imagine the crit does not matter with the helping hand boost, but he did correctly target the Coco, and Chris did not read the Rotom switch in, which would have saved it.
Yeah, very interesting. Obviously, I misspoke there. Obviously, no Terra left for Chris. Terra Fairy on the Coco, so couldn't Terra Flying. But the acrobatics hit, not killing the Tusk through screens there, and the Headlong Rush getting the kill on the Coco. Didn't switch into the Rotom, even though he had it. I think that does reveal that it's Scarf there, right? It moved before the Coco.
I
Yeah.
imagine it is scarfed because you run speed on Coco all day. So it's got to be scarfed to just outspeed Coco and anything left in attack or bulk.
Yeah, very interesting there. I assume Chris didn't switch in because he assumed his Coco was faster there, so maybe not knowing this thing is Choice Scarf or not believing it after the turn before. The Headlong Rush kill there is very good, but now you're in a spot where Sneasler has Protect, and Great Tusk cannot hit the Rotom because it has Headlong Rush. He just has to click it into the Sneasler and accept that it's going down to a Rotom hit with either a Pump or a I don't know if Shadow Ball should kill with the special defense drops from Headlong Rush. So it looks like
Depends what he
Tusk
has
is
in the
going
back,
down.
though, right?
Yeah, does Spectre clean up here, you think?
I imagine it can. The question I suppose I have is, what risk is Thunder going to take? Is he going to take the risk that he switches something in and it lives a hit from potentially two Pokemon, but saves the Scarfed Great Tusk in the back that he can use to clean up the game with whatever move it has left that can hopefully hit Rotom? Or does he take a different route and just let the Great Tusk go down and bring what we imagine is a Spectre in safely? Let's find out what he does, because it's a 50-50 on what he has left.
Yeah, actually, just remembering here, with the Unburden, Sneasler is faster, so it might just target the Tusk itself and leave Spectre in basically a 1v2 with helping hand support from the Meowstic.
That's a good call. And he is going for it, and he loses the Tusk for free. And, well, the special defense drop probably doesn't really matter here.
Double Protect here.
Double Protect.
I suppose just scouting what the Spectre wants to do.
Well, now the
Ooh.
light screen is down, but he gets the light screen back up, and then Sneasler lives a hit.
Very interesting double Protect there from the Sneasler. Not sure why it's not just attacking.
Look at what he says in the chat here. I did not mean to click that. He did not mean to double protect.
Although the
Oh,
Rotom
no.
should finish off here with the Shadow Ball. I don't know if the Grim Neigh boost is enough. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
And that's the game.
Oh no! How tragic. I think Chris was in the position to just end this game cleanly. Just an unfortunate misclick with the double protect causes him to go down to the Shadow Ball, and then the Helping Hand Grim Neigh Shadow Ball from the Spectre actually one-shots the Rotom. Oh my goodness.
Tragic.
Obviously no
Absolutely
attacking moves on that
tragic.
Meowstic. If the Spectre goes down, it's a free game for Chris. Oh man, what a series.
What a match.
Wow, I mean, I think both the game plans were kind of what we expected. Obviously, we thought this battle's all about speed control, right? And Chris being naturally faster. The game plan from Thunder had to be an adaptation and go for his slow, bulky mode with screens rather than his Tailwind mode when it didn't work out.
But he still had to finish the game with his fastest natural Pokemon.
Yeah. What a good game from these competitors. We're going to go to a post-game interview with the winner, Thunder McBusters, after this and just get his insights on the match. Any closing remarks here, Easton?
Nothing closing. I'm very satisfied seeing both players bring out their best here. We definitely saw some good plays, some bad plays, some misplays. But I think everyone can be happy with how they've played here. They've done a good showing.
Yeah, great match for both the competitors against some of their hardest opponents of the season. So we'll see you guys in the post-game interview. What's up, guys? We're here with the post-game interview with Thunder McBusters. Me and Easton doing the interview. Thunder, pretty tight match between you and Chris. How do you feel coming out with the win on that one?
Pretty revealed that I won, but I think had that protect not happen, I think I'm sitting here as a loss. So, like, really happy to beat Chris and still be undefeated.
Yeah, me and Easton were talking a little bit about that protect. We thought that Chris was just going to go with a faster attacking move there with the unburden and close out the game. Definitely a little fortunate misclick for you there at the end, allowing you to come out with the win. But overall, we agreed both you guys played really well. Maybe a few misplays on each side that were interesting. Easton, I know the one that stuck out to you was the bulldoze coming out from the Arcanine. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, what was going through your head when you saw the bulldoze? Because my initial thought to it was, what? This makes zero sense. Your team is already faster naturally than the other one. You're using bulldoze into a Pokemon that can run weakness policy to great effect, and technically hasn't revealed its item yet unless you've done calcs.
Yeah.
And you have the option to just hit it with Flare Blitz for free. Like, I didn't understand the purpose. What was your thought process?
Yeah, so when I saw Bulldoze, initially I was like, huh, what's his plan here? Because unless he has something that's like really slow that wants to outspeed, which I don't think he had on that 6, I was like, oh, this is kind of a wasted move because like Meowstic support, it's prank, and all its moves is Prankster, so it's going first anyways. And then my Metagross is min speed, like it has no speed investments at all, so like it's not here to outspeed anything. So I was quite surprised with that, and if he was trying to go for a super effective move, I'm not sure why he didn't go with the Flare Blitz option. So I was like, oh, this is kind of like a really good turn for me. He just kind of messed up on this turn.
And there was another turn in that game that I was expecting Chris to make a read, and he didn't. It's the turn where he should have swapped in the Rotom Wash onto the Coco slot, because at that point we have pretty much figured out that the Great Tusk is scarfed.
Yep.
And we assumed that would give you a free turn to live, for him to live, and then take you back. Like, what was your... Were you expecting a switch out on that, or was that like a Hail Mary? Like,
What game was this one? This one?
This was
or
game
which turn?
3, yeah.
Game 3? Okay. This is after Arcanine went down. Or like this is before like Arcanine goes down. Like, you're asking like he should have swapped Arcanine for a Rotom Wash?
No, I think it was Coco for Rotom Wash, right?
Yeah, I can actually pull it up here real quick.
Okay.
I believe it was this turn right here, right? Yeah.
Oh yes. So yeah, that turn I was debating between either going for Sneasler or going for Tapu Koko, but I was like, well, I didn't know what he was gonna do, to be honest. So I was like, let me just get rid of this Tapu Koko because it is clicking like it is his Terra and it's clicking Dazzling Gleam, and I thought Spectre in the back should be able to clean up Sneasler with one Shadow Ball is like my kind of understanding. So I was like, let me get rid of this Tapu Koko.
Were you worried about the Rotom switch at all? Was the thought like, oh man, this Rotom might switch in on one of these slots?
There was a possibility. I was like, there was a chance that he could swap out, but I was thinking like between Close Combat and Headlong Rush. If I click Close Combat, then it's resisted obviously, but it's gonna do decent damage to Rotom. But if I click Headlong Rush, it could be immune. And I guess, end of the day, I guess I went for Headlong Rush because I was like, okay, well if he immunes, this Great Tusk is probably going down to Sneasler anyway. So like, let me just see if I can pick up the kill here.
Right.
It's a high risk, high reward, and you got rewarded for the high risk play here. I will also admit, I was very surprised to see you bring the Great Tusk in Game 3 after it got one shot 2 games in a row before this.
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea is pretty much it's still scarfed. So maybe if I get into a situation with the Coco, I can still outspeed it and kill it. That was like the whole goal. As like the rest of my team kind of doesn't do anything. I could have brought Metagross in the back, but I don't think it's very effective. Oh sorry, I led Metagross. Sorry. So Thunderous just gets outsped. So I thought like there was no point bringing that. And Roaring Moon's just full support set as you guys saw. So it was just better to bring Great Tusk with a choice scarf set, and just hope that maybe I can outspeed something or get good damage on something like this Rotom or the Arcanine or whatever that's out.
And interestingly enough, it ends up being a Spectrier. I had made a point in an earlier game that as Tailwind, I believe, was ending, right? We both thought that Substitute was the correct play for you to use if you had it on Spectrier, because it would keep you in the driver's seat. But it obviously doesn't have a non-attacking move, so you had to go for an attack.
Yeah. Pretty much idea with Specs is I think I was missing on some important kills just barely with like a metal plate or no metal plate, spooky plate and or life orb. So I decided to go with the Spec set, and that whole idea was like let this thing click Shadow Ball a million times because no resist on Chris's side, and whatever that resists it, like if he Terras to like normal or dark, the rest of my team should be able to help up and clean up that Terran Pokemon, so Spectre can do the rest of the work.
Yeah, it's very interesting that Chris opted to go for the extremely risky strategy of bringing 0 resistances and 0 Terra resistances for Spectrier when he has the no ghost resist on the tracker that we revisited earlier in the video. But despite that, he had found ways to get rid of the Spectrier, so he made the series very close.
Yeah, Spectre is not like too bulky. It has decent HP, but I figured that like since both our teams are fairly pretty squishy, it's just gonna be about like getting these key knockouts. So it's I don't think him bringing Terra, like maybe Terra normal could be relevant as like I'll be locked in, so that'd be a little bit annoying. But I think the defensively terroring might not get much in this matchup. Like maybe except for like something like Arcanine, maybe that's like a defensive supportive Pokemon, or maybe like if you brought Shreds. But other than that, I think this matchup is just literally about like who can get the knockouts first and who can get the ball rolling.
Right, like Cocoa Puffs and I talked about in the pre-game, we figured that this game would be all about speed control, and that was correct for game 1, where Tailwind was the biggest factor in speed control. But the rest of the series was just a battle of attrition. Who can survive a hit and then dish back out damage? And if you can't, then you pretty much lost.
Yeah. I decided to go with screens, or I guess the Meowstic Metagross League game 2 and 3, because it seemed like my Tailwind strategy was not working, because either he had like Rotom Wash Stall a couple of turns, he clicked Protect, and once Tailwind went down, and once I saw the taunt on top of Coco, I thought, oh, well, the same thing might probably just happen, so it's probably just better to lead the Metagross plus Meowstic. But I was very surprised to see no taunt onto this Meowstic, as he only saw no damaging moves at game 2 or 3. So
he saw it as early as game
to
2, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a choice to he pretty much has 2 choices when he notices that. It's either you ignore the Meowstic completely and just let it sit on the field and force you to make good predictions with whatever Pokemon you still have on the field that can do damage, or knock it out so that it stops being annoying. And he opted for the decision I probably would have made in this situation, which is to ignore it because it's not doing anything. But obviously you made good enough predictions to win with that kind of set on the field. It may not work all of the time running a Pokemon with no attacking moves, but in this case it ended up being the right decision.
Yeah. And just going back to that choice specs decision on the Spectre obviously very much mattered there at the end with the helping hand choice specs Grimnay boosted Shadow Ball one-shotting the Rotom. Otherwise Meowstic would have been left on the field with no damaging moves. Throughout the series we saw Meowstic get really good value out of all of its moves, but obviously in game 3 there could have ran into a problem had Meowstic been the last one on the field. In retrospect, would you have chosen to give this thing a damaging move, or do you think it got so much value out of all of its other moves that you really like the set?
I think I probably wouldn't have changed it, because I think even if I did have a damaging move like Psychic or T-Bolt or whatever damaging move Meowstic, because like I EV'd it so defensively, I don't see any point really, because I think like even if I was in that endgame scenario with a Rotom and I had Psychic, I don't think I'm going to be out damaging Rotom as my special attack is not too high, and I'm not. Well, I guess it could be special invested, but this thing was more about like enabling Pokemon than like being able to do at least a little bit of damage, if that makes sense.
Right.
No, it makes total sense.
Yeah, and just going back to some of the moves you made during this series, that safeguard obviously very clutch in front of that Rotom with the Will-O-Wisp. Was that safeguard just there for that Rotom and that Arcanine?
Yeah, pretty much. If Metagross gets burnt in this matchup, it makes my opening turns very hard to play, and he most likely just kills Metagross, and then my Pokemon in the back probably would have to kill like 4 Pokemon still, as Metagross probably wouldn't get any kills. So yeah, pretty much Safeguard was just there for exclusively for the Arcanine and the Rotom Wash Will-O-Wisp to make sure it can still output the damage, and Helping Hand plus Heavy Slam, or even just Heavy Slam into his team is pretty good, as most of the team are pretty squishy and light. So yeah, as long as Metagross could take 1 or 2 kills in the first couple of turns, I thought that was pretty confident that Spectre and whatever was in the back could clean up.
And there were a couple terms. Game 3, we saw that after the Coco protected, you chose to Hammer Arm into the Arcanine, and I think it was Game 2, you Psychic Fangs into the Arcanine, or one of the slots. Was that kind of your mid-ground play to work around a potential Rotom wash switch in? Because obviously we saw the Heavy Slam come out first, and then you ended up deciding to change your move both times. Was that kind of just like a, hey, if Rotom wash switches into this Heavy Slam, I'm in a bad spot?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking. If I were to click Heavy Slam and Rotom Wash swaps in, it's not doing much damage. I think it's only doing like, at least when I ran the calcs, like 15 to like 20-ish%. So it was like really bad. So if I just click Psychic Fangs instead with a Helping Hand, even if Rotom comes out, I think I was aiming the Psychic Fangs at Coco, so it would still pick up the kill. And if it was not the Arcanine, and if it was not the Arcanine and I swapped out to Rotom Wash, then I still would be doing some really good damage onto Wash, letting like stuff like Spectre, like Shadow Ball later, and just one-shotting it.
Yeah, for sure. And anything else you wanted to talk about, Easton, regarding the matches or the sets?
I think we've hit on all of the points that I wanted to address. I definitely think the team building was a very strong point for both of you, picking some very interesting teams. I don't think if I had mentioned to Coco that we would see 4 non-attacking moves on Meowstic with Mental Herb, that would have been a set I would have proposed. So you definitely did some cookage here.
Yeah, I think the most unexpected thing that I had on this team was definitely this Roaring Moon with its full support defensive kind of tailwind mode for the team. I did not expect this season to ever run support Roaring Moon.
Yeah.
I definitely think support Roaring Moon is looked down on because its offensive sets are just so potent. But it's such a great Pokemon in terms of variety of sets that it can run that maybe people are undervaluing it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I see a place like if I'm ever gonna run support Roaring Moon again. I'm definitely gonna keep that handy, just in case like I do need it, because now I've seen it and it was pretty effective. Because I do have a lot of other damage dealers on my team, like the Primarina that didn't come, like Metagross, all these other Pokemon. So it could come back in the future as well, but just not sure. But I will say definitely learned something from this series that Roaring Moon could be a pretty good support especially with the booster speed sets.
Yeah, and obviously, Chris, great prep into this Roaring Moon, just running a mid-ground bulky set to counter the Tailwind, ultimately. But any thoughts going forward for your season? Any comments towards your opponent, Chris, or any thoughts on just the state of the PDL in general?
Thoughts for Chris. I do kind of feel bad in game 3. I think I did definitely get bailed out by the protect. Him misclicking. I think I probably would have lost the series in the whole. But I think overall, I think I played pretty well and adapted game 2 and 3 to what I saw. And regarding my position in the PDL, I'm in a, I guess, pretty comfortable position now at 3-0, so I'm pretty happy, especially compared to like last couple of like 2 or 3 seasons. I haven't been playing very well, so it's nice to be back on the winning front and just be ahead of everybody right now. So hoping to just take games one by one and just keep winning.
Yeah, and congratulations to you for winning this match. Obviously, the Gardevoir Guardians advancing to 3-0 in the gold group now, and Syracuse Zero-Auras unfortunately going down to 1-2 despite going to 3 matches almost every series. Very potent battler Chris is, regardless of the outcome here, and obviously one misclick away from winning it himself. Do you predict seeing the Syracuse Zero-Auras again in playoffs sometime?
I still think they can definitely make playoffs. I guess I would assume, at least if I was Chris's POV, probably I am like one of his hardest matchups or hardest opponents in the gold group, and I think he still has a couple to worry about, but I still think it's still doable. I've seen like worse starts. I've seen some people start 0-3 and still make playoffs. So I think he's still in this fine spot. Just can't lose too much confidence and just try his best to just keep trying to get some more wins.
Yeah, and just harkening back to the beginning of this episode, actually, me and Easton talking about the content battles between you and Chris, the lore behind the match of the week. Any words for Chris regarding the content?
Hey, all I'm saying is I'm producing that content. You know, I'm on a couple of podcasts / commentaries, the McBusters Minutes out there. Me and Water, even though I guess more of like Water's doing the power rankings, but like asked them to do it. So I'm trying to put out as much content as I can, and I mean, I'm open to criticism. If it's not good, then I'm trying my best to make it better. But all I gotta say is I'm putting out the content.
Hopefully.
Where's your content, Chris?
Yeah, I was about to say, hopefully to see Chris in the content zone, the content sphere for the PDL here soon himself. I'm sure he has a lot of great insights into the battles that he can impart upon us. And any closing remarks about the gold group in general, Easton, here, as we're closing up? How you think things are going to shake out between these teams?
Just in general, I still think there's a lot of Pokemon to play, and we're getting close to the end of free agency / trading period. So for anyone that still needs to make some additional pickups for their teams and still have free agent tokens to use, don't forget, that is ending soon. You need to go and make changes to your team if you want to do them very soon.
That's right. Well, thank you, Easton, for joining me here today. Thunder, congratulations on the win, and good luck going forward. Thank you for joining us. This is us signing out, and we'll see you next week with another match of the week. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks.